I don't think they made Gwen Stacy trans.
I'm not saying they made her trans. I'm saying they like made it a possibility. Like, look at the color palette they use for her and the flag.
I just think you're reaching a little bit.
I thought it was Kevin Spacey.
Oh, okay, Tom.
Oh, you did Spider-Man 2 weeks in a row, Noah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You guys are here. Hello. Hi.
Hey, Eli. What's with the big curtain?
I hate it when he has a big curtain.
No, you guys are going to like this one. Trust me. So, you know how this week's episode is about Pat Robertson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we are edgy atheist comedians, unafraid to really push the boundaries of humor.
Say it like that. I hate that description.
Yeah, I know you didn't say racist, but it sounded like you were calling us racist just now.
No,
I heard
no,
that
we're not
in my head.
racist, but we are unafraid to push the boundaries of humor. So, what better way to show that than doing this week's episode with Pat Robertson's corpse, huh?
Dude.
Come on.
No, guys, think of all the edgy stuff we could do. We can kick him, and we can mush his face around. I can do a puppet voice. That's right, Eli, I was a real sack of shit. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be really, really good.
Dude, Eli, that's super funny. It's just that's not Pat Robertson. That's Robert Pattinson. From Twilight?
Oh, I wondered why he looked so young.
Yeah, and he was definitely alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I assumed he was like a zombie or something, and that like it was lucky that I got there in time and I had this shovel, so I just sort of went to town with the shovel on him, and I was like,
he wasn't, and you didn't.
Yeah,
so.
well, obviously, I see that now. Any chance Robert Pattinson's dead body would have any relevance to this week's episode about Pat Robertson?
Probably not, dude. He's just an actor.
Yeah, no, I figured. Oh, boy. My face is red.
Yeah, you got Robert Pattinson's blood all over it. So.
No, but underneath it now, too.
Do you experience that emotion? A lot of evidence suggesting you don't.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Eli Bosnick, and I'll be leading this funeral dance party, but I'll need some fellow revelers. First up, a man who hated P-robes before it was cool. No illusions.
Yeah, I mean, it is something when all your examples of how old you aren't to keep dying, right? It's just,
Yeah. Also joining us tonight, two men who are still mad that the 700 Club isn't a sandwich, Heath and Tom.
Everything is a sandwich if you're willing to bite hard enough.
I would eat a cannibal sandwich if it was a piece of Pat Robertson as like a slice of bacon in there or something.
100%,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unity as a podcast. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. Patrons, literally 0% of our audience give us 10% of their income, but some of you give us some of your income. And for that, we promise not to retire until we're 90. And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, this is the big one, the episode for which all other shows will be worth it. Tell us, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Today, we will be talking about the original crypt keeper, now kept in a crypt, Pat Robertson.
And Noah, you've been preparing for this day for a time that would put a vengeful samurai to shame. Are you ready to unleash Batosai?
if that means talk about what a piece of shit Pat Robertson is, then yes, I am ready to do that.
All right, fantastic. So tell us, Noah, who was, God, that past tense feels amazing, Pat Robertson?
Oh, he died.
Yeah, he sure did.
Idiot.
So I know the whole gimmick here is that we read a single article about it on Wikipedia, but I'm actually going to be drawing from two separate articles for this one. One is, of course, the entry for Pat Robertson. That one is about 4,000 words, just shy. The other is the completely separate entry for Pat Robertson controversies, which clocks in at over 8,000 words and has no fewer than 35 separate headings. And on top of that, of course, like everyone else here, I'm also going to be drawing from all the knowledge gained from a decade-plus career of making fun of him.
Yeah, I searched for Pat Robertson on the Google Drive of our scripts, and it just returned our scripts.
Yep, all of them in order, right. So, Marion Gordon Robertson was born in Lexington, Virginia on March 22nd of 1930, which is a really long fucking time ago. Right? So this motherfucker is older than FM radio, helicopters, and parking meters. Right? So like the
FDIC, a lot of shit.
Yeah. No, so the first time he read a book,
God.
paperbacks hadn't been invented yet. Right? The first time he wrote with a pen, he would have been dipping it in a fucking well.
And, can I say, he had the morals to show for it.
Yeah, never updated those, no.
You know, the pen thing isn't surprising since he's become obsessed with where people were dipping their quills for the next 80 years.
Yeah, he came by it honest. So Marion's dad, Absalom Willis Robertson, was a Democratic senator back when Democratic meant racist. His mom was Gladys Churchill Robertson. She's listed in the Wikipedia article as a housewife and musician. And apparently he earned his nickname Pat at a very young age. The Wikipedia says that it came from his 6-year-old brother who loved to give him pats on the cheek while saying "pat, pat, pat" when Pat was a baby. I have no
That's not how
evidence.
people get named. Right. This is not how names happen.
Yeah, I have no evidence to directly dispute that, but I also have a big brother, so I would bet a fucking finger that the true origin was more embarrassing and sinister than that. But
Absolutely. Had to be.
Why wouldn't there just be a lot of adults around called like Gucci Gucci Goo otherwise?
Right, yeah,
Like,
right,
That's
exactly.
the stupidest shit I ever heard.
He was doing some weird shit with butter or something. Something weird.
Well, regardless of how he got it, he thought Marion sounded too girly, so as soon as he was old enough to express a preference, he insisted that people call him Pat.
Oh, you didn't like how that got assigned at birth? You fucking dig it? You didn't like that? Did you stay consistent on that forever?
So Pat went to good schools growing up. Daddy had money and power, so his kid went to the finest of preparatory schools and shit. This would ultimately culminate in a law degree from Yale, though he would fail in his first and only attempt at the bar exam. His education was delayed, however, along the way when the nation reinstated the draft in 1948. Pat joined the Marines, where either he saw some real action and performed bravely under fire, or the congressman who served with him and said that Pat was lying about the details of his military career was right. Now Robertson.
I know which one it is.
Well, so
I know which one it is.
Robertson would eventually sue that congressman, Pete McCloskey Jr., for libel. But then he would later drop the suit, not because it had no chance of success, mind you. It was different. He was busy with other stuff.
Yeah, but don't worry, podcast listener. He's still dressed up in various degrees of soldier cosplay whenever it was helpful for TV.
Yes,
so.
right, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, Pat, and now we're going to enter the discovery phase of our proceedings where we'll establish the basic factual detail. Did he just run away?
Also, you didn't join the Marines if they just did the draft at the same
Right, yeah,
time.
exactly.
Like, that's
Yeah,
not,
no,
you
that's
didn't
it's
join.
a bit different, yeah. So in 1956, Pat's life would change forever when he met Dutch missionary and author Cornelius Vanderbruggen, who convinced the 26-year-old unemployed and
He
overeducated...
sounds like a fucking racist rooster cartoon or something. Like, there's no... What?
Vanderbruggen.
Yep, that's him.
Oh, you know the song.
Won't when Chinese people are
He knows his,
around.
yeah, I was going to say, he knows his racist cartoon chickens. But Vanderbruggen convinced the 26-year-old unemployed and overeducated Robertson to turn his life over to Jesus and thereby make a fuck ton of money. So Pat enrolled in the Bible Seminary in New York, where he would receive a Master's of Divinity degree in 1959. 2 years later, he would be ordained a minister of the Southern Baptist Church because they have way lower standards than the New York Bar Association.
Yeah, I mean, something tells me a guy whose dad was named Absalom was probably already a little Christian, but
Yeah,
go
right.
up,
Yeah.
heroes, you know.
It's a weird power that Christians have to turn Christian despite being Christian, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you may have noticed at this point that Pat Robertson clearly had a fuck ton of family money. right? Like at least enough that he was able to get done with Yale Law School and go, I think I'd like to spend some more money on whatever the opposite of education is too, go the other way for a while. And then upon earning his divinity degree and still not having a fucking job, he also had plenty of money to buy the license to a defunct UHF station near Virginia Beach.
Cool. Yeah. Classic riches to riches tale.
Yep.
Bootstrap mine from dad. Great job.
UHF station. I am very excited for the Weird Al cameo coming up in this.
Right?
Essay. Very excited.
So now
I want Pat Robertson to drink from the fire hose for sure.
All right, now, so as a great reminder of just how fucking old I am, I should explain what a UHF station is. So these were the UHF stations were stations with more limited broadcast ranges than their accompanying VHF stations that existed in major media markets. They were basically the equivalent of mom and pop TV channels that mostly had either old syndicated crap or educational programming or religious shit. Pat's, of course, would be religious shit. From that UHF station's WYAH-TV, Robertson would build the Christian Broadcasting Network, which would go on to make him one of the wealthiest religious leaders in American history. So the CBN started broadcasting in October of 1961, and you have to understand that this is the very dawn of televangelism. Okay, so even the word televangelism was brand new, having only been coined in 1958 as the title of a Southern Baptist Convention miniseries. So Pat was on the absolute leading edge of this shit, and he was one of the people that really helped to create the modern stereotype of the sleazy televangelist. In the early parts of his career, he was such a blatant huckster that in his eulogy, The Guardian described him as, quote, almost a caricature of a snake oil salesman. End quote.
Bill, you're going to want to put an almost in there. We don't want to insult snake oil salesmen with the comparison.
So now included in the hucksterism of his early career was, of course, prolific work in the sinister con of faith healing. Where people with very real medical problems are told that they don't need doctors anymore because your prayer just healed them. One of his producers would eventually grow so disillusioned by the blatant con artistry that he'd write a book exposing Robertson's fraud called Salvation for Sale, where he pointed out, among other things, the way Pat's ability to perform miracles always seemed to coincide with the television broadcast schedule.
Oh, I'm sorry that God works through me at prime time, usually at sweeps week a lot, because he cares. Because God cares about curing the cancer that he invented.
Yeah.
You think God wants a lesser audience? Like a smaller?
Duh.
He's not taking a bullshit slot.
This is America.
Now, it's worth noting that despite Robertson's miraculous ability to cure cancer and give sight to the blind and whatnot, the station wasn't an immediate success.
Feels like that would do it, though.
If anything was going to do it, right? Yeah. But 5 years after its launch, it famously faced bankruptcy, so Pat held a telethon seeking $10 a month donations from 700 viewers to keep the operation afloat. The telethon yielded not just the money to save him from bankruptcy, but it also gave the station the name for its flagship show, The 700 Club. So we got our start in the entertainment business on the Pat Robertson model, y'all. Love it or hate it. That appears to be the truth.
1 second. Adding a Patreon category right now.
Yeah.
700.
Except we were the one club with April Puff.
Yeah, right, well, that's true. Yeah, right. I should also place all of this culturally, right? So Pat's televangelism career is ramping up kind of at the height of the civil rights movement, at a time when the country's two major political parties are realigning, right? This would be the beginning of the so-called Southern strategy, where Republicans basically said, hey, we'll take being the racist ones if the Democrats don't want it anymore, if they're giving up dibs.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if they want it still, but just, quieter mostly?
Well, Republicans would take it then, too, as it turns out. Yeah.
You going to finish that racism?
Oh, yeah.
Just be cool.
And so, and of course, Pat Robertson was a prominent voice in that realignment. Robert P. Jones, the guy who started the Public Religion Research Institute, called Robertson one of the chief architects of the highway between the Democratic and Republican Party through the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, awful. Like, I know he wasn't officially in the Klan, but if you're driving right next to him on a highway and you built the highway, it's...
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. You're in it.
And I know this is hard to believe from today's vantage point, but back then, the highly visible religious leaders largely stayed out of politics. And they did so for the same reason that fucking restaurant chains stay out of politics mostly. Like, why divide the brand if you don't have to? But Robertson kept politics at the exact center of his ministry. And that made him one of the first people in the media world to truly recognize the profit margins that go along with catering to white fragility. And that made him a millionaire 100 times over at least. So in 1977, the Christian Broadcasting Network would spin off its own cable channel called the CBN Satellite Service. But very quickly, they realized the advantage of people not knowing right away that it was a Christian network, and they renamed it the Family Channel. That venture quickly grew so lucrative that it couldn't stay under the umbrella of Robertson's tax-exempt operation, so he sold it to Rupert Murdoch for $1.9 billion in 1997. Now, it would trade hands in the entertainment world a couple more times. It would be redubbed ABC Family, and most recently in 2016, it would be rebranded as Freeform. But throughout all of this, whether it was being produced by Fox or ABC or Disney or whatever, because of the contract that Robertson originally signed with Rupert Murdoch in the 90s, the station has been required to continue airing both the 700 Club and the Christian Broadcasting Network's annual telethon.
Yeah, horrible. But at least Disney learned their lesson about contracts from that, and now Ron DeSantis can't change the Disney zoning rules until the House of Windsor stops existing in the world.
What is the fucking telethon pitch when you're worth billions, though? Like, okay, we're going to need you all to donate. We promised the CPAs that count our money, we'd send them to the Maldives.
Right,
so,
yeah. Well, no,
pitch in.
The pitch was, I'll cure your cancer with it. You know, that was, yeah. So, no, it's worth taking a second to soak in just how fucked up it is that Disney is shilling for Pat Robertson's station. Because, again, this motherfucker started as a faith healer. In 1976, he started regularly guaranteeing his audience that Jesus was going to return and judge the world in 1982. In fact, no, as it turns out.
Okay.
In fact, his Apocalypse Flameout was so infamous that in 2011, he and several other, apocalypse predictors were awarded a joint Ig Nobel Prize for, quote, teaching the world to be careful when making mathematical assumptions and calculations, end quote.
All those apocalypse prophets always herald a date and find themselves camping out.
Right?
Harold camping.
Yep.
Nice. Idiot.
By 1988, he was desperate.
Do the math better.
Yep.
Learn to add.
But by 1988, Pat Robertson was desperate to put both the faith healing and end is nigh portions of his career behind him and focus on his latest effort at influencing American politics. Because in 88, after watching a B-list Hollywood actor fuck the country sideways from the Oval Office for the last 8 years and be beloved because of it, he realized that if Ronnie could do it, anybody could. So he decided to run for president.
All right. Well, I don't think Pat Robertson was president, so I'm feeling optimistic about the second half of the essay. Also, he dies, so there's that to look forward to.
Spoiler.
Either way, we're going to take a quick break for some apropos of nothing. All right, folks, come on up here. It's time for miracle healing. Yes, you, young sir, what's your illness?
Wow, Pat Robertson.
Yes, indeed.
It's really
son.
you.
Yes, how can I help you?
Yeah. So just sitting in the audience watching you cure all these people, watching them throw away their heart medicine and diabetes stuff. It's so amazing what you do.
God is great. Now, what can I do for you?
Yeah. So I lost my leg in the war.
Your leg?
Yep. So what do you say? Help me out?
Oh. Well, how did you lose it?
I was saving a baby from a suicide bomber.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Okay, well, God doesn't really do legs, per se.
Oh. Well, I lost some fingers,
arms.
too.
Let
Can we
me
do that?
finish. Let me finish. Don't interrupt,
sorry.
please. He doesn't do blown off stuff.
Oh.
Son, do you have maybe any invisible conditions? Something people couldn't, like, film getting better?
Not really. No.
Oh. All right, then. Well, I guess you should...
I have terrible PTSD. Can you cure that?
Nope. I cannot. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's okay. It's no problem.
Sorry.
It's no big deal. Really. Not a big deal.
I'm the worst possible person.
Seems like you really found the bedrock, yeah.
Right? And we're back. When we left off, Disney gave the worst possible kind of charlatan an international satellite-based platform. How'd that work out for him, Noah?
Well, they just let him keep it. But yeah, so now I would love to tell you that Pat Robertson was just a joke candidate in the '88 Republican primary, but he wasn't. Despite the fact that his campaign promise included not allowing anybody who wasn't Christian or Jewish into his administration, he would end the contest with the second most delegates, and in the first contest in Iowa, he would finish way ahead of eventual nominee George Bush Sr. But ultimately, his presidential bid was no more successful than his apocalypse prediction, and he did drop out of the race before the end of the primaries.
And we never relied on the insane results of Iowa's jackass political primary system ever again.
Learned our lesson.
Listen, if anybody's going to win, like, okay, caucus, it would be like Pat Robertson.
Yep,
I get
exactly, right.
Got cancer Karen over here, cancer Karen over here. Come on over to cancer Karen over here.
Yeah, now and I should point out he didn't win. He just took second place. Bush took fourth, I think, in that one. But just because he was out of the presidential race didn't mean he was out of politics. As the host of the 700 Club, Robertson would maintain a powerful voice in evangelical and therefore Republican circles into his 90s. And as he was courting Republican voters and conservative politicians, he was also courting controversy. So at this point, I want to shift gears to the Pat Robertson controversies article that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to start in 1986 when he famously called non-Christians termites.
Ooh.
So this comment came in an interview with New York Magazine, and apparently the point he was making was that termites don't build things of their own. Instead, they come in and destroy shit that other people built. The analogy being, of course, that Christians built America, and now all we heathens and godless commies are coming to destroy it.
Yep. Deal with it. That is exactly what's happening. All that, we're stealing your country and eating your wood. Fucking deal with it.
I mean, thank God nobody but a Christian has ever had to eat Pat Robertson's wood.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and also not for nothing, but termites pretty famously build quite a lot.
yes, they do. That's the thing.
The whole thing.
Almost anything that eats shit you would have been okay with, but he picks one of like the 4 animals that famously build shit. Yeah,
like the lazy beaver.
But he didn't reserve his bigotry solely for non-Christians. In 1991, he attacked several Protestant faiths as well. Specifically, he complained that they say you're, quote, supposed to be nice to Episcopalians and the Presbyterians and the Methodists and this, that, and the other thing. Nonsense. I don't have to be nice to the spirit of the Antichrist. End quote.
Antichrist? Okay, if Methodists are the spirit of the Antichrist, he's really slow rolling his master plan as the Antichrist, right?
Okay, first we're going to sing songs at Easter and have a pig roast and a block party, and then we'll enslave all of humanity. What?
Now, of course, when it comes to religious bigotry, he reserved his highest level of vitriol for Muslims. He denounced Islam so frequently that I'm not going to bother to point to a specific date or whatever, but throughout his career he said that Muhammad was, quote, an absolute wild-eyed fanatic, a robber, and a brigand.
A milquetoast barbarian and haberdasher.
He also said that Islam at its core teaches violence, and in addition to this, he also said some untrue stuff about that religion as well, like that Islam was...
I mean, a stopped clock,
yeah,
right?
right. No, he also said that Islam was satanic, that it was a Christian heresy, and that it was, quote, motivated by demonic power, end quote. And don't dare think that he left Hindus out. In 1995, he attacked them on his show, where he called Hinduism a demonic form of idol worship and said that belief in Hinduism across India had, quote, put the nation in bondage to spiritual forces that have deceived many for thousands of years, end quote. Hear that, India? It wasn't England that put you in bondage. It was that pagan faith of yours.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Hindu people of India are fighting the demonic Christian heretics of Islam in India, right?
Right, yeah.
And the Muslims are fighting the pagan idol worshippers of Hinduism in India. They're both your allies, Pat Robertson. Just fucking think it through.
Now, for some reason, the Pat Robertson controversy page lumps his derogatory comments about feminism, homosexuality, abortion, and liberalism together in one subheading, though each could easily get their own. He once described feminism as a, quote, socialist anti-family political movement that encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians, end quote.
Okay, for the record, I feel like that's way more accurate than eat, hot chip, and lie, and I am in.
Okay, I'm in for all of that.
Yeah,
Divorce,
exactly.
abortion, witchcraft, eat the rich, lady sex, eat hot chip, lie. That's all objectively like a delightful little Saturday. That's great.
Sure. So let's see. In the wake of the Obergefell decision in 2015, he likened gay marriage to bestiality. And in one of my favorite moments in his career, in 1998, he predicted that Hurricane Bonnie, which was bearing down on Florida at the time, was going to hit Disney World as holy retribution for their acceptance of privately sponsored gay days.
I know it's going to happen.
The hurricane would turn northward and actually come ashore in Virginia Beach, which is where his studios were located.
Okay, that looks bad from a thing. However, timeout, interference, twist my ankle. I twist my ankle, doesn't count.
That's a charge. Now, I'd say that my nomination for the worst thing he ever said came in 2013 when he claimed that members of the gay community in San Francisco were intentionally infecting people with AIDS using poisoned rings with secret needles.
What is he picturing physically does that needle look like? Does it go inwards?
It's on the inside of the ring, just pointing in, I guess, and you shake their hand.
A lot of mishaps.
You would think,
Ow!
yeah.
Hey, man, did you just stab me during our handshake? No.
You got to wait 6 weeks for it to come in the mail. You order it out of the back of a comic book. It's a
So there's a lot of competition, obviously, for the worst thing that he ever said, but that one always really stood out to me. Though it probably wasn't his most controversial statement, I feel like that award goes to the words, "I totally concur," which was his response to Jerry Falwell coming on his show to blame 9/11 on, quote, pagans, abortionists, feminists, gays, lesbians, the American Civil Liberties Union, and the people for the American way, end quote.
Man, Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson in the same studio. Now there's a world-improving earthquake for you, right? Huh?
I believe it was a satellite interview. But yes, yeah, no, still, could have been a big earthquake. Now, of course, Robertson's bigotry didn't always conform to our preconceived notions of prejudice. He was something of a bigotry pioneer, if I do say so myself. So in addition to going after the usual suspects like feminists, liberals, and the LGBTQ community, he also threw us occasional curveballs, like when he called Scotland a dark land that was overrun by gays, or the time that he blamed the devastating 2010 earthquake in Haiti on the fact that early Haitian leaders had, quote, signed a pact with the devil, end quote.
Sounds like somebody bought a timeshare.
Scotland is a dark land. Have you met a Scot? Call them what you will, but of all the adjectives, dark is not the one that leaps to mind.
Nope. Sure ain't. Now, to this point, you could be forgiven for thinking, come on, Noah, sure, this guy was a terrible bigot who helped set in motion the very force that our nation is being crushed beneath as we speak, but it's not like he buddied up with war criminal dictators in Africa and provided them with the funds to exploit their country's natural resources while turning a healthy profit for himself.
I know what's going to happen.
But that's only because I haven't mentioned former president of Liberia and convicted war criminal Charles Taylor yet.
Oh, God.
who Robertson repeatedly defended on the 700 Club without ever mentioning that he was heavily invested in a Liberian gold mine that was directly financing Taylor's regime.
Hey, Pat, maybe tone it down with the evil thing you're doing and smuggle some apartheid Krugerrands instead if you're going to invest in some, ethical gold. Said the bad guy from Lethal Weapon 2 to Pat Robertson.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yes. But defending a guy who...
Mel Gibson. I was talking about Mel Gibson. There's no way Mel Gibson doesn't own Krugerrands. There's no shot.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. But defending a guy whose reign of terror included rape, slavery, and child soldiers might actually not have been his least moral action vis-a-vis Africa. In 1994, during the height of the Rwandan genocide, Robertson went on the air to give this impassioned plea for a charity drive called Operation Blessing, which he claimed would be used to fly refugees out of Rwanda to the relative safety of Zaire. And unless we're granting that diamond mining equipment that he owned could count as a refugee if you're flying out of a war zone, that is not where that money wound up going.
Okay, to be fair, by 1994, he probably needed diamond mining equipment to reach under his jowls, so I did get it. I get it.
For just the price of a cup of coffee a day, you could sponsor a blood diamond auger like this one right here. There you go. Sarah McLachlan.
Now, I should note that this whole thing was looked at by the Virginia's Office of Consumer Affairs, who recommended that Robertson be prosecuted for fraud over it. But Virginia's Attorney General at the time, Mark Earley, issued a report saying that while Robertson may have made deceptive appeals, he didn't believe they rose to the level of fraud. And I'm sure the fact that Robertson was the single biggest contributor to Earley's campaign had nothing to do with that decision.
It's not fraud, it's deceit for money.
Yep, is what it was.
Slippery slope and all that.
And I'll admit that of all 36 or so headings on the Pat Robertson controversies page that I read, none of them got me quite as excited as when I saw leg press claims.
Yes.
You know what's coming.
Yes.
He has claims about leg press already crazy.
Oh, it's yeah,
no other
no, and it just gets worse from here. So this came when about when a then 76-year-old Pat Robertson teamed up with that bastion of retail credibility and integrity, GNC, to release an age-defying energy shake. And while shilling for this product, Robertson claimed that since he started drinking it, he was able to leg press 2,000 pounds. Which would be an impressive feat for an athlete in his fucking prime, let alone a septuagenarian talk show host.
I genuinely think that if he had said a million bajillion pounds, it would have been less embarrassing.
Right?
He couldn't leg press the British money 2,000 pounds. There's no shot. 2,000 pounds the weight, that's a full-grown rhinoceros. Robertson said he can pick up a fucking rhinoceros with his legs at 76. No, actually, he said, I couldn't quite pick up a rhino, and then I had a shake from GNC, and my legs got all yoked up like Popeye, and then I picked up a rhinoceros. Ridiculous.
This is what literally happened in the world. No, okay, so the best part about this is that when he was called out by the entire fucking universe on this claim, he stood by it. He even went so far as to post a video where he proved he could leg press 2,000 pounds by leg pressing 1,000 pounds. And cheating.
He didn't
No, wait, but he also
No.
cheated. Look, I don't know shit about tits when it comes to fucking leg presses, but people who do looked at his video and they said that what he was doing definitely doesn't count as leg pressing 1,000 pounds, even if we accept his claim that the weight on the machine was equal to 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, the all-time record is like 1,300 pounds. The guy who did that was 21 years old. He went on to play in the NFL, and the blood vessels in that guy's eyeballs burst when he did it. And they had to rebuild the leg press he was using just to make it physically possible for the machine to hold the weight to even do the feat.
Did he have a shake from GNC?
Right.
If he did, he would have shot the whole press across the room.
Like a fucking trebuchet, yeah. Anyway, so all of this controversy happened in May of 2006. In June of that year, GNC discontinued Robertson's energy drink without explanation.
Can I say, I know that this is about much worse con men, but GNC has weird lines.
Yeah. Now, of course, to be fair, I should point out that everything Pat Robertson ever said in his entire life wasn't terrible. He did famously push back against young Earth creationism, saying that, quote, "You have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to think that this Earth that we live in only has 6,000 years of existence. To deny the clear record that's there before us makes us look silly," end quote. He also supported marijuana legalization until some states actually started to legalize marijuana, and then he shifted to being opposed to it.
Well, didn't see that happening. Gonna have to backtrack.
Yeah.
Unlike the leg press thing, that's
That I'm sticking
that's canon.
by.
That's canon, guys.
And as a quick reminder that he continued to be a dangerous asshole right up to the end, I should point out that the last heading in the Controversies article is about P-Robes trying to justify the invasion of Ukraine by explaining that Putin was compelled by God to do his part to fulfill the end-time prophecy in Israel. The Wikipedia article follows that claim with this delightfully understated gem, quote, "His claims have been described as having a lack of evidence to support them," end quote.
He's differently truth-abled. It's cool.
Trutho's
spicy. Don't worry about it.
So over the years, he outlived a lot of controversies, and he managed to maintain his influence over the evangelical community through 6 decades and a smidge of a seventh. But in October of 2021, on the 60th anniversary of CBN's first broadcast, he announced that he would be retiring from the show at the age of 91. 2 years later, he would die, and there would be much rejoicing. Now, to my knowledge, nobody's actually published a cause of death in this instance, which with celebrities is usually a sign that it was a heroin overdose, so I'm assuming it was that. The low-end estimate of his fortune at the time of his death was well over $100 million.
I like to believe he was trying to do a leg press when he died.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. A rhino squished him. That's how he's dead.
And Noah, if you've had to summarize what you learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Oh, we're in the wrong business.
Tell me about it, man. All right, are you ready for the quiz?
Always.
All right, Noah, which of the below are real quotes from Pat Robertson?
I like this.
This is A. Just like what Nazi Germany did to the Jews, so liberal America is now doing to the evangelical Christians. It's no different. It is the same thing.
Oh, my God.
B. About Hugo Chavez. You know, I don't know about this doctrine of assassination, but if he thinks we're trying to assassinate him, I think we really ought to go ahead and do it. It's a whole lot cheaper than starting a war. And while giving advice on the 700 Club to a woman whose husband cheated on her, he had this gem. C. Like it or not, males have a tendency to wander a little bit. So what you want to do is make a home so wonderful that he doesn't want to wander.
Rough.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And the fact that you can go through that whole thing without mentioning the one where he said that, like, you can get demons from thrift store sweaters. That says so much about the motherfucker, right?
Can you? What?
Yes.
Did he really say that? And can you?
Yes.
He really said that, yeah.
So I'm going to go
He
with...
said that recently enough that I remember covering it with Cecil on Cog Disc.
Yeah. I'm going to go with D, all of the above and then some.
All of the above. Yes, indeed.
I got bed bugs from that.
All right, Noah. As listeners to our other program, The Scathing Atheist, already know, Pat Robertson committed one last act of violence against me by dying right at the start of my vacation last month.
Right.
Why did this happen? A, because there actually is a God, and this is the best way he could think of to punish me. Or B, fate was setting us up for when you go on vacation in August with a deadly fire in the conservative Supreme Court Justice lunchroom.
Oh, can I dare to dream that it's B? It's B. The right answer is B.
They have to let you.
Legally, you are allowed to dream.
We say this all the time. You have to be allowed to hope. All right, I got one more for you, Noah. What the fuck happened to his face? A, terrible accident while filming a Honey Nut Cheerios commercial. The drizzler went haywire. Lot of drizzle on his face. Never got it off. B, his face got slowly rejected by Venom for being too evil, as if a bad transplant, and Venom had to distance himself from Pat Robertson. Or C, his face died in fear and terrible pain, along with the rest of his bigot self.
Oh, I like C. I'm sorry, can you repeat C again?
His face died
not that I didn't understand it. I just wanted to hear it again.
And terrible, terrible pain as a rhinoceros crushed down on him slowly, and he tried to hold, and then the metal burst apart, and he was dead. Because his bigot self was stupid and a bigot.
It's my new porn right here. It is C, but the modified C, the last C.
We're going to release just that audio to the new 700 Club patrons. Do with what you wish.
Correct or something. I don't know. He's dead.
Yeah, no, that's nice.
All right. Well, the winner is the world because Pat Robertson is dead.
Love it.
Who do you want to do an essay next week? Tom? You want
I'll do
Heath
one.
to do one, I think. I was looking at the
Hedging your
schedule,
bets there. That's
and
well done.
I believe you want Heath to do one.
Okay.
We'll find out. It'll be a surprise. All right. Well, for Tom, Cecil, Noah, Heath, and Carl the Pug Pegacorn, I'm Eli Bosnick. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Heath will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, hey, if you like listening to us make fun of shitty religious people, I've got great news. We've got other shows chock-a-block full of it. Check those out. Cognitive Dissonance, The Scathing Atheist, D&D Minus, The Skeptocrat, and Dear Old Dads.
And god-awful
I didn't
movies.
forget any. God-awful movies. Those are ones. God-awful movies. Anyways, you can do those things. Check us out. Make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod. Or, hey, leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes. Be sure to check out citationpod.com.
Which is why we at the Citation Needed podcast would like to apologize once again to Robert's friends, family, and fans, patent stands, as they prefer to be called, for the careless act of our coworker. We hope that in time you can forgive us for that, and that the brief, violent end of Robert's life does nothing to dull his incredible work.
I feel like brief, violent end as a phrase brings to mind the shovel thing. We want to avoid that, right?
So just like, you think just the end of Robert's life?
Yeah, just end of Robert's life.
Yeah. No, okay. All right, cool. You ready to face the press?
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Amazing they keep coming to these press conferences. I don't even know why they come to these.
I mean, Eli kills a lot of people.
Call forward.
What?
Nothing. The podcast is over now.